Let's begin the meeting. Meeting of the Lehigh County Authority Board of Directors, December 12th, 2022. This meeting is being held via in person as well as Zoom and available on phone calls and all information has been published on our website. Board members should have received packages in advance and had an opportunity to review the vast amount of pages. All right. Let's have a roll call of the, let me first of all say that in advance of this meeting, we had an executive session for the purpose of personnel issues, and that has concluded. Have a roll call of the board of directors for the attendance.
Okay. Roll call of the board. Ryan Noggle.
Here.
Scott Bieber.
Here.
Richard Bonner.
Here.
Norma Cusick.
Here.
Ed Lyons.
Here.
Kevin Baker.
Here.
Linda Rosenfeld. Here. Jeff Morgan.
Here.
Amir Kamili.
Here.
Thank you. We have 9 board members present today.
And following up on the comment about the advanced materials, we did get some additional information that was not in the original board package. The agenda was changed slightly just by the number of pages of the documents, the location of those documents in our package. And anything else beyond that, or is that it?
No, the 2 items that went out slightly later were the 2021 audit and financial statements and the Smart Union contract changes packet. So those were all emailed out to you and posted on our website at some point last week. So should have a full packet.
Okay. In that same vein, reviewing the agenda, are there any changes, additions, corrections?
There are no changes. I'd just like to recognize this is a packed agenda. There's a lot going on here today, but it is our only meeting in December. So I appreciate all of your attention and working through everything.
I have to be honest, I would appear at 3 o'clock.
It should be done by then.
So that means keep moving. Okay, move on to the November 14th, 2022 board meeting minutes, seeking approval of those minutes. Mr. Secretary.
I recommend we accept the minutes for the November 14th meeting as published. Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. Are there any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. At this point, we open up the floor to any public who have any comments on items that are not on the agenda. Do any public have any comments?
No, thanks, Brian.
Yeah, no, thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Jenny and Ryan. All right, moving on and to action and discussion items. First of all, under finance administration, which we have 8 items on there. It's a special occasion to recognize one of our board members who is leaving after 50 years of service without pay. So Dick, we appreciate everything you've done. I think we have a little bit of a clip here, first of all, from the Lehigh County Commissioners meeting where you were also recognized, and play that now. We have 2 items to also hand after that.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to everybody for making this volunteer life an enjoyable one, a profitable one, and one that the world can look forward to as you develop more natural resources to keep the population alive. I thank you very much, and I really had a good time.
We enjoyed having you here. Right, this is a clip from the County Commissioners meeting. Go ahead.
People who serve on the boards of authorities and commissions and the capacities that Mr. Bonner has served, they do so as volunteers. And we're talking about Lehigh County Authority, which delivers water and provides critical public health services through its insurance of high quality, safe, reliable water and wastewater services. I don't know if Mr. Bonner was original to the LCA, but 50 years is definitely a milestone. And, you know, he worked for PP&L during the parts of his service. But his volunteer pursuits with the LCA just are unmatched. And we've been very fortunate to have his service here in the county. I know, you know, whenever we hit round numbers like this in volunteerism, organizations give accolades, and rightly so. There have been times where LCA's work has been contentious, that there have been some challenges that LCA has worked through. But for folks like Mr. Bonner to stick it out and keep serving, definitely worthy of the accolades.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a note here, as I was looking at this resolution, and one thought came across my mind, is like, how many people that we know that are around today that would stay in a position for 50 years? We know of 2 right now, let alone be at a job or a volunteer to be on a board. That is just amazing. And I wanted to thank Mr. Bonner for all his service to Lehigh County in this very important job, and to acknowledge and thank all the members of the board that are here tonight to celebrate that for him. So I think that's a very, very important milestone, and we should celebrate it. So thank you.
Mr. Mulchaney?
Chairman Brace, thank you. I have a proclamation from the county executive, Mr. Phillips M. Armstrong. I'm not going to read it, but I'll make it available for Liesl for her meeting in early December, where she could actually hand off our proclamation as well as the board's to Mr. Bonner. There are 2 whereas that I think are very significant. One is, whereas during his 50 years of service to the authority, Richard provided consistent leadership and participation in critical decisions that shaped the provision of water and wastewater services throughout the county. And whereas Richard's signature, remember, Richard was in leadership roles for a large part of this 50 years. So whereas Richard's signature appears on a variety of important authority, historical, and contractual documents, singling his leadership in ensuring that reliable water and wastewater services would be available for growing communities in Lehigh County. The executive is very honored to award this proclamation to Mr. Bonner, and we'll make sure that the executive director of LCA, Liesl, gets the proclamation from which she can hand it off to Mr. Bonner. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point, without objection, I'm going to move to a voice vote on Resolution 58. All of those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion carries. Thank you for letting me shuffle the agenda around a little bit, and I thank everybody from LCA who participated this evening. Your presence certainly enriches the recognition.
Okay, so proclamation. Liesl, he was saying that you should be doing this. Okay, interesting. All right, well, first of all, I think we all understand. Here I have the proclamation signed by Phillips M. Armstrong from the county executive, and here's your proclamation that was read there.
Thank you very much.
You too. And the resolution that the board chair had talked about and voted on here was from the Lehigh County Board of Commissioners, and for you,
Thank you.
for all your work you've done, and appreciate everything you have done for us, and wish you well.
Well, thank you very much. This is so wonderful, and I'm enjoying it. I think I'll do it again.
All right.
Wow.
Richard, Dick did serve as the chairman for some time and 18 years as secretary. And that's amazing. Like I said, we will lose 37 years of institutional knowledge from the time that Dick came on the board until I came on the board next after that, which was 2009. So I'm not waiting for 50 years. All right, thank you.
Well,
Anything else? Any other comments?
I have a comment. The speaker talked about your signature on so many documents. Whereas and wherefore, and I was thinking about it, I wonder if our liability insurance as directors is up to speed with all of our documentation and everything we're doing. And I never hear it discussed here, do we?
I don't have an answer for you today.
what was the question?
The liability insurance should be in place.
It is.
Yeah.
I never heard it discussed here. I'm kind of concerned about it, but it was kind of funny hearing that your signature is here, there and everywhere. As the rest of them are. And I'm just thinking that,
Well, there's two types of it. I mean, there's liability insurance, which is, if someone's injured.
Yeah.
And then there's a public officer's insurance.
Yes.
It's,
yes,
yeah. to be replaced.
we played our premiums and we're up to speed.
We are.
You're safe, Ted.
Good.
Basic message. Okay, moving on.
Excuse me, Brian.
Yes, go ahead, Jen.
I'm sorry. The city would also like to compliment and celebrate Mr. Bonner on his long years of service and thank him so much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks for that additional comment. Appreciate that.
Wow. I used to work for the water department.
No,
You didn't know that.
I didn't know that, no.
When I was old enough to get a job, I got a job in the summer in the water department. And I worked in places like the Rose Garden, Lehigh Parkway, etc. Taking care of the baseball fields.
Excellent.
Never thought I'd end up here.
Okay, next on the agenda is the 2023 board meeting schedule. It's seeking approval. It's the goldenrod documents in our board package and digital board package page number 9.
This schedule has been reviewed by staff as well as board members for any conflicts of holidays and other things like that. So we believe it's good to go, but if there's any other comments.
And just note that the September meeting is 11th and the 18th
Yeah.
due to Yom Kippur. I think. All right. We need to seek approval of that recommendation. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Linda, seconded by Ted. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on. Now move to the long-awaited 2021 audit and financial statements, seeking acceptance. Information was distributed at the meeting, but also electronically before the meeting.
And we do have, I'll let Ed introduce our guests and get into it, but I did want to say that our 2021 financials have been closed for quite a long time, and we presented final figures for 21 many months ago. So there's really not anything different in terms of our financial performance that we're presenting today. It's just closing of the audit and the official process. Ed, do you want to?
Yes, so with a deep sigh of relief, I sit here saying that I'm glad to have this behind us now, to be able to present to the board. It still keeps us in good standing timing wise with respect to GFOA and awards that we have won on a consecutive basis over the years. So I'm happy with that. With that said, I think I would just say that it would be time, as we have done in the past, to introduce our primary managing auditor, Nate Swartz from Zelnkowski Axelrod. Nate, I see you're there.
Yep.
So whenever you're ready, you can be started on having to present to the board some of the overview of the audit for this year and some of the things that are in the statements.
Okay, and again, I'd like to thank Ed and his staff, obviously for getting us the information. Again, the big hangup this year, we were waiting on PMRS. It did come in slightly quicker than last year. Hopefully it will come in again quicker, the subsequent year. I believe they are starting to get the process down. So again, hopefully that comes in quicker, which can get us back to our normal schedule of issuing the report around April 30th. So again, nothing really I can do about that other than say, hopefully it's quicker next year. There are some required communications that I wanted to go over with the board. The first one and most important one is you did receive a clean, unmodified opinion on your financial statements. That is the highest level of assurance that we can give as a CPA firm. We performed our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards in the United States of America. We complied with all ethical requirements regarding independence. There were no significant difficulties encountered during the audit, other than, again, timing on the PMRS reports, which then pushed our timing around in our normal schedule. No significant uncorrected misstatements that required communications to the board. No disagreements with management that required communications to the board. And there were no significant internal and control issues that required communications to the board. I just wanted to give a real high level overview. I know we've done this every year of the financial statements. And I'll go through it quickly. If you need me to stop, please stop me. But the first pages of the financial statements, pages 1 through 3, are the independent auditor's report. So that's the one section of the entire document that belongs to my firm. That's our opinion. And again, as I said, it was a clean, unmodified opinion, as high as we can go on the insurance level. Pages 4 through 17 is the management's discussion and analysis. This is where management kind of gives their overview of significant changes that occurred during the year, some significant transactions, and it analyzes basically the last 3 years in comparison to each other year over year. Pages 18 through 24 are the financial statements, the actual financial statement schedules. Just briefly wanted to touch on page 18 through 19, which is the statement of net position. So that's the one every year where I talk about is a snapshot. It's as of December 31st, 2021 and 2020. It lists your assets and liabilities. One of the things I'd like to highlight is the total net position for the authority as a whole was $146,639,812. That basically represents the amount that your assets and deferred outflows exceeded your liabilities and deferred inflows. Obviously, with a sewer and water authority, the vast majority of this is going to be capital asset related. Statement 20 is the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. So as opposed to the snapshot of the balance sheet as of a certain point in time, this is the activity that ran through the year through the P&L. So all your revenues, all your expenses. One of the key things to highlight here, again, the authority as a whole, your net position, your revenues exceeded your expenditures by approximately $2.6 million. The next pages, page 21 through 22, are the cash flow statement. So this again it's not a snapshot. It shows the activity of the year, the ins and outs of cash, basically reversing all accrual and non-cash items to show you cash coming in the door, cash going out the door. Pages 23 through 24 are your fiduciary statements. So this is for your suburban OPEB trust fund that was established. Again, a great thing for the authority. Very few municipalities within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, there are some more doing it now, have actually funded their OPEB funds, which is a significant liability. Obviously, you guys are well aware of across the Commonwealth and the country as a whole. So far, the Suburban OPEB Trust Fund as of December 31st, 2021 had $4 million accumulated to pay future benefits of the OPEB trust fund. So again, great that you guys have that actually funded. Page 25 through 70 are your notes to the financial statements. This gives additional detail on significant transactions incurred by the authority during the year, as well as significant assets and liabilities. So it gives you a little more meat to what's on the face of the financial statements. Just one note, or two notes that I wanted to point out. On page 49, just because it's obviously so big, on page 49, you're going to see a breakout, and we have that it's for every single fund, but the one I wanted to point out is obviously the city division. It's a massive number, but that breaks out your long-term debt payments. It's one of the things I always like to point out, the principal and interest requirements, and it breaks it out by the first 5 years. It'll show the principal and interest over those next 5 years, and then every 5 subsequent years from there, it lumps them together and breaks that out. Just something that's good to look at to see your future, liabilities or the future payments that are going to be made on those. Another thing I always like to point out is on page 66. This is your pension note. As you guys are well aware of, the discount rate when you're doing pension and even OPEB liability calculations plays a massive role in determining the potential liability that's being recognized on the financial statements. This schedule basically shows what your net pension asset for this year. And remember, this is measured a year behind with PMRS. So it would have been measured as of December 31st, 2020. You actually had a net pension asset this year of approximately $1.4 million. If you lower that discount rate, that projection of what you're going to earn on your funds by 1%, it shifts that from an asset to a liability of millions of dollars. So again, that number is an estimate. It's the best estimate that they come up with, and PMRS they are very conservative with their estimate of the 5.5%. So if that would shift and you get 4-point-some%, that would turn that asset into a liability. Vice versa, if it would shift the other way, you'd get 6-point-some%. It would turn that into an even greater asset. So just something I like to make the board aware of there, that, any shift in that will dramatically affect that asset or liability.
I have a question.
Yep.
How often does that discount rate change?
So they revisit it, I believe at PMRS, they revisit it every 2 years. They may actually revisit that every year. Usually you do want to kind of keep consistency there. Again, you guys are well aware of this was measured as of December 31st, 2020. The stock market was doing extremely well during that time period. If it gets remeasured, it'll be remeasured every single year. It's obviously going to go the opposite way, but that discount rate, it's a long-term projection. So they don't, adjust that every year for volatility. It's supposed to be a projection out of like 30 years. So you don't want to see it switch too often. How's that?
Thank you.
Yep. The last part of the statements are on page 71 through 76 is the required supplementary information. So this gives additional detail on the authority's pension and OPEB plans. It shows some historical funding, where you guys are at on that side of it, as well as some of the liability changes over the course of 10 years when we have enough data for that. And the very last page, page 77, is the other supplementary information. It's just a breakout of your suburban wastewater for some of your Penvest notes. They required it. With that, I'll open it up to any questions that you guys may have.
Thank you, Nate.
Yep.
Not seeing any.
As always, I'm available if you think of something, you know what I mean? Send me an email or send it to Ed or anything along those lines.
They see a lot during the year. We probably spend a lot of time, more than a lot of places, on income, cash flows.
Yeah.
We don't spend as much time on the balance sheet as much, so it's good that you covered that a little bit here. But I just want to say thank you for the dogged persistence on this audit and dealing with PMRS. it's certainly been a struggle over the last 2 years, and boy, I really hope that they get their ducks in a row and we don't have to sweat like we were sweating this month. So I appreciate all the help from you and your crew. And we'll look forward to starting that up in just a couple short weeks.
Yeah, we'll see you guys again in about, a month and a half or 2 months. We'll be back out there to start field work again. Again, hopefully we'll get back to that April 30th next year. Fingers crossed.
Well, I think we would have been ready for it had they been ready. So I guess the good news is from our standpoint, the process that we have seems to be working. We get some cooperation. I think we can be there. So.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thanks again, Nate, and good work, and appreciate your efforts, and
Thank
Ed
you.
too, sir, and your team. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have just a quick question. Ed. What's the trust fund that he mentioned?
Yeah.
Trust fund, could you just give?
The OPEB fund?
Yes.
Yes, that is, we have funded the obligation that we expect to have with respect to suburban water post-retirement. So unlike a lot of companies that just take the actuarial results and put the liability, we've actually invested funds to counteract that.
Well, one year we have a spreadsheet that shows the calculations for expected OPEB
Oh, yeah.
reimbursement. That's what that's all about. Then we
Oh,
allocate
okay.
so much money to bring that up to whole. Are we at whole? Is that? Well,
On the OPEB side for suburban, we are on a net asset position. So we are actually in a position where we have more than we expect the liability to be over the term. So.
Good position to be in.
And I think you may be asking on the pension side, we're in the same boat right now. Basically, that is now a net pension asset instead of a net pension liability because of all the favorable effects of the rates that we talked about. But so that's a good position to be in. We are, unlike a lot of other companies, not sitting here staring at a liability that's unfunded.
Okay, thank you. We need acceptance of that. Is that a formal board vote on acceptance? So I need a motion for acceptance.
So moved.
Second. Amir, second. Ted made the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Moving on to resolution number 12-2022-1. Customer facility fees and connection fees, seeking approval, blue document in your board package, digital pages 10 through 15.
All right, so this one is a pretty straightforward one we do every year, last meeting of the year. That in which we want to adopt updated customer facilities fees and meter fees. And that is considered to be a tapping fee by the kind of the letter of the law. So it needs to be adopted by a resolution, which is different than how we do our regular user rates. So what's shown in the attachment to the resolution are the actual costs and the breakdown of how we calculated what those charges would be. And these are applied in situations where there's a new connection and we need to go out and physically install a water meter or physically go out and create the connection for the customer. So it's pretty much direct reimbursement of our costs for both equipment and labor for Allentown division and suburban division, water and sewer. So it's all inclusive of those kinds of fees together. Because it is considered to be a tapping fee, we require the resolution, and this is the standard form of resolution that we've used for these sorts of things. So happy to answer any questions on that.
Are there any questions from the board?
I move that we adopt resolution number 12-2022-1. I'll second that.
Motion made by Linda, seconded by Jeff. For resolution 12-2022-1, resolution establishing the various components of the Lehigh County Authority capital recovery fees for the city division water system connection fee and the customer facilities fees for the city division water system and the suburban division water and wastewater system. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Next, we have resolutions. We have two resolutions, 12/2022-2 and 12-22-3, authorizing the authority's application for grant funding, seeking approval, purple documents in our board package, digital pages, 16 through 20.
Thank you. So for this one, there was a supplemental one-page summary that was distributed and added to the packet last week. And that actually shows 3 grant applications, a summary of 3 grant applications that we'd like to make. The first 2, the Heidelberg Heights Sanitary Sewer Replacement Project and the Upper Western Lehigh Pump Station Project, those are 2 LCA suburban projects that are subject of the resolutions. The third one, I felt it was important for you to see the information on. It's the City of Allentown Inflow and Infiltration Source Reduction Program, phases 1, 2, and 3. And that's actually a grant application that the City of Allentown is pursuing in partnership with us. So we have a couple guests here from City of Allentown Office of Compliance who've been working on that. Because the city owns the system, they have to be the grantee or the applicant for the grant for that third one.
Question.
Yes,
Are there 3 resolutions or 2?
there are 2. I'm just explaining the third one that's not included,
All right.
acknowledging it because there is a significant LCA match for that one under our obligations under the lease to do I&I work over the future. So that's a third application that we're trying to make. So the first 2 applications are due by December 21st. And so by the process that's required for the Department of Economic Development, they require a resolution of the board authorizing the grant application. Resolution 12-2022-2 relates to the Upper Western Lehigh Pump Station project. And for that project, we're asking for grant funding in the amount of $5.2 million rounded. The required LCA match would be $2.6 million. And that's for the pump station and force main extension project that will resolve the Trexler-Town bottleneck situation that was subject to a corrective action plan from DEP and our special study 537 that we submitted earlier this year, sorry. I'm already on next year. The second application, resolution 12-2022-3 is a familiar topic, relates to our Heidelberg Heights system. That one again is under a consent order and agreement with DEP. And this grant application is for the last phase of pipeline replacement to remove all the vitrified clay pipe in the system. We had previously applied for grant funding through the local share assessment grant program earlier this year, like March or April, something like that. We have not heard any information about whether that grant would be awarded. So we thought we should take advantage of this program now to apply for grant funding because it's an open program and it's specific for the Heidelberg one for small systems. So this grant program is available through the DCED and it is specifically using money that's available through the COVID-19 American Rescue Plan Fund the state has. So as you may or may not be aware, the ARPA program allocated relief funds to municipalities directly, but not to municipal authorities. So the state held some of those funds and they have this grant application that's open for municipal authorities and other entities to do specifically for water projects. So I think it's fairly straightforward and happy to answer any questions that you have.
So we need to vote on this, but do we need any kind of included statement about supporting Allentown's grant application.
You certainly could if you wanted to. There's no board action that's necessary for that. The city council did their own resolution for their grant. It's really more just an acknowledgement because we're partnering with the city in that process and we'll be providing the match.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question on the Checkers project. Wow, did we formally request assistance from Lehigh County funding on that, and did they respond?
We did request support from the county of Lehigh. As you're just kind of going back to that ARPA funding thing, City of Allentown is providing ARPA funding for some projects in the city that will have direct impact of eliminating some of the rate impact of those projects. And we thought that this project, the Upper Western Lehigh Pump Station project, would have been a good use of county ARPA funding, but they were not in agreement with that, so they declined. They are providing a letter of support for going after grant money from the state, but they declined it to support it with their own ARPA money.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mike, you had something?
I would recommend you do each resolution vote separately, not both at the same time.
All right. Do we require a voice vote on each of those, or can we do a?
No, you can just, yeah, you can just all in favor.
Okay. All right, we have all 9 members present, so. Okay. Motion and second.
I'll make the motion to accept 12/20/22-2. Do I have to read that?
No, I will. I'll do it. Either I'll pass that on to Mike to read it.
I'll read it. I'll give you a break there. Resolution authorizing the submission of an H2O PA water supply, sanitary sewer and stormwater projects program grant request, designating Lehigh County authority officials authorized to execute all documents and agreements in connection with the requested grant and assist in obtaining the requested grant and providing for other miscellaneous matters.
Okay, you need a second on that as well.
Second.
All right, that's all. Amir raised his hand first. So, motion by Linda, seconded by Amir. Resolution as stated. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous approval then. Reading of the second resolution.
Second resolution is the exact same as the first one, except for this is a submission under the PA Small Water and Sewer Program. Otherwise identical.
I make a motion.
Motion by Scott. Seconded by Jeff. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on our agenda to the next item, which is the SMART SMART union contract changes for 2023 to 2025. Seeking approval, digital board package, pages 21 through 26. This information was provided separately.
Thank you. So the SMART group, the Home SMART, stands for Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation. Union, they are representing our suburban operations group and some other positions within our suburban operations. Their contract is expiring December 31st of this year. And so through significant effort of the staff as well as the union, worked through the negotiations to put together the proposal that's before you today. What I've provided is a cover memo and then an attachment, which is a detail of most of this, well, all of the significant language changes and then description of the more minor language changes throughout the contract. Just a couple of highlights in the contract or the changes. First of all, there's an addition, a small addition for employees who would work 7 consecutive days to receive 2 times pay on that 7th consecutive day. That is something that happens somewhat infrequently, but that's an addition to the contract. General wage increases as noted in the document for all employees in the group for the three-year period. One of the things that is unique to this group is a robust career path progression process. So employees can advance through to different positions based on achievement of skills or certifications. And that is maintained in this contract, but with a couple of minor modifications to simplify it. So we're happy with that. We did increase the ability for employees to accrue comp time. So when someone works overtime, they can accrue that as comp time to be used as paid time off at another time, increasing that accrual from 40 hours to 80 hours. Last year, we added Martin Luther King Jr. Day as a company paid holiday. So we're incorporating that into the contract this time around. And then we made some changes to the way sick time works for this group of employees. It's a key provision where employees will receive or pay back some of their used sick time at the end of the year if they use over a certain threshold. So it's like a penalty if you use too much sick time. We changed that provision, removed that penalty, and then allowing employees to use their sick time in situations where they may work a long shift into the overnight hours for respite time. So we give employees the ability to take sick time if they need rest to get an adequate night's sleep and work safely. And that's a change in how we handle that sick time. And then a couple of other minor things like the probationary period and various language adjustments reflecting current processes. The union group met and voted for ratification last week. So we do have the support of the union group on this, and through our staff review, very comfortable. It's a fair and appropriate change to the contract. It's a 3-year contract, so 2023 through 2025.
Well done, thank you. Okay, any questions? Document changes?
Motion to approve.
There was a suggested language that was circulated that I can read it if you want.
If you would, please.
Yeah. Motion to approve an amended contract with the Smart Local 19 Union for the years 2023-2025. With the amendments contained in the detailed report provided with the agenda and authorizing the CEO to execute the final form of the amended contract with any incidental modifications necessary in consultation with the solicitor.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, do I have a motion on that? Those words from Linda, yes. Second by Kevin. All right, any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
And
I do have a second request, and it's related to this. So as part of ratifying this contract and putting it into place, you'll notice that we have wage increases included with the SMART group. And I wanted to highlight that during the 2023 budget process, we did include an additional roughly $110,000 for increases for employees across the whole organization, and to reflect the economic climate that we're living in right now and the inflationary impacts that employees are feeling. So the $110,000 is available in our budget. It will cover the increases provided to SMART, but I'd like to request board authorization to use the full $110,000 that was added to the budget in 2023 to award employees some recognition for difficult economic times. And that's kind of over and above our normal process.
okay, Mike, would you read proposed language for that motion?
Well, yes, a motion to authorize the release of $110,000 from the budgeted pool for 2023 salary adjustments to be awarded in January to members of the SMART Union in accordance with the 2023-2025 contract, and to other authority employees at the discretion of the CEO for purposes of recognizing employee dedication during difficult economic times over the past year.
Okay. The motion and the second for that?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Amir, seconded by Ted. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Next up. Okay, next topic is on Capital Works Plan Room, storage and scanning, seeking approval, gray documents in our board package, digital board pack, pages 27 to 29.
Great, and Chris Mon, you're up.
Thanks, everybody. This is a pretty easy one. What we're looking to do is we're looking to engage with Reynolds Business Systems to take one of our planning rooms downstairs that's filled with approximately 18,000 plan sheets, and then subsequently digitize them so we can store them online and use them for access remotely with some of our GIS systems. We chose Reynolds because we've worked with them historically in the past, and they have a new facility that offers secure physical storage, as well as their focus for cybersecurity. So, you know, the partnership that we'll have with Reynolds will allow us, you know, to feel warm with them having our documents for a while. We're looking to start this process as quick as possible so we can take advantage of some space limitations that we're currently having. And the intent is to have them come and take the documents off-site to their secure storage facility and then scan them and send them back to us in a digital format on a schedule provided by AJ, Chuck, and the Capital Works team. So we're not really missing anything. Secondarily to that, if there is a need to see any of these documents, they do have a secure place where we can go on site and view them if need be. They're right at the end of Brookside Road here. So we're asking for a total of $79,640.93 to engage with Reynolds Business Systems to securely organize, transport, store the plans, QC them, as well as scan and then subsequently deliver digitally to us in the future.
Chris, how long do we need to maintain this paper copy of these documents?
I'm sorry, Mayor, can you repeat?
How long do we have to keep them legally, this data?
So according to the Municipal Authorities Act, as long as the plan documents are the documents of our system itself, we have to keep them. So,
Paper copy.
yes, sir. So there are ways to avoid that going digitally, but it's fairly expensive at this point in time. So our intent is to have these delivered back to us in a PDF format, and then have a place where we can subsequently store these paper documents and access them as needed.
And the storage facility is very local.
Yes, so Reynolds Business is currently at the end of Brookside. If you go onto 29, they're about 100 yards on the right-hand side, 5 minutes away.
So it's a fireproof room, I'm sure, right?
Yes, yes. And it's always a cause for concern we have documents down there that are so old, they're almost hard to unroll, some of them. So the process that Reynolds has put in place will allow them to QC them as they're scanning them in real time to make sure that we get the best image possible.
So they'll take all of our documents, they'll
Yes.
scan them, provide information back to us. And then will they turn all those documents back over to us then at some point in time, so we don't have to pay an annual maintenance fee?
That is correct.
So it's kind of once and done thing, and then we take care of it from then on, and new documents being.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm confused. I thought they were going to keep the paper records.
So they're going to empty the room for us, and over the course of a year, they're going to subsequently store and scan the documents for us. And at the end of the project, we will have all the paper documents back ourselves. I would feel.
Okay, what gets stored at their facility then?
Well, during the process of the scanning, they're going to have them.
So we really haven't freed up any storage space. That's what you're saying, just for that year.
For the year, but it's going to give us a little bit of runway to build a secure storage space. The problem with having to store these documents is it needs to be in a controlled environment. We just can't stick them in a warehouse somewhere. So we have to get a space that's conditioned and dehumidified to make sure that we maintain the proper integrity of the paper documents themselves.
So you'll be doing that, then we'll build that facility here somewhere.
I don't know that we'll need to build anything. We might need to repurpose some things. I know there's some things in the works currently that we're going to be able to take advantage of by the end of next year, hopefully.
We're gonna come back for more money.
No, sir, not me.
I would just add that in the business and all of the old facilities that exist and do expansions and modifications, you don't build brand new stuff, that those drawings are invaluable for, where you don't think, oh, you know, hey, project pops up and it's like, well, do you have those old drawings from the seventies that show the original things that, right? Chuck, I mean, it happens a lot more than you'd expect, and maintaining that stuff and getting it electronically is just, in my mind, very valuable.
And a little selfishly in this regard is our intent is to have everything on the field attached in GIS. So our guys in the field can actually pull up drawings on tablets that we provide them already. So they don't have to call back, get one of the engineers to pull a roll off the shelf, scan it in. These guys will have all access to that in real time.
Very good. Okay, so we have before us a professional services authorization to Reynolds Business Systems for $79,640.93.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Jeff,
I'll second.
second by Scott for approval of this PSA. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. All right, next on the agenda is contract laboratory analysis for water and wastewater samples. Seeking your approval, yellow documents in our board package, digital board packet pages 30 through 33.
Yeah, and just to make one correction, this is for water and wastewater. It's under the wastewater heading. This for both. And go ahead and explain it.
All right, thank you. So in front of you, you have the professional services authorization for laboratory analysis of water and wastewater services. Our laboratory in the Allentown facility must have a fairly vast laboratory, which covers pretty many analysis. We do about 30,000 per year. This is going to cover simple things such as pHs, VODs, ammonias, TKNs. But there are a pretty big number of analysis that we cannot do inside that laboratory. That's mainly due to equipment. We don't have the proper equipment, we're not accredited, and we simply don't have enough staff for some of them. So that's going to amount to about 8,000 different analysis. That's going to cover Suburban, Allentown, and the pretreatment plant. So we did go and we requested proposals from 4 different laboratories in the area. In evaluating them, we obviously looked at unit costs for what we were asking for. It's also going to include pickup charges, turnaround times, which is very important to us. We need, when we send out a sample, we need to get that data back as soon as possible so that we can either make process control changes for regulatory purposes. So that's a pretty big one. And that being said, we have 4 different proposals in front of you. And we are recommending Suburban testing labs for a total of $204,323. I just want to make note that about $40,000 of that is from pretreatment plant costs. So they would be invoiced separately and they would pay that separately. So this is a 1-year contract with the option to potentially extend it 1 year over a 2-year period.
So we already paying Jacobs to do the analysis. I mean, that's part of their contract, is it not?
Can you clarify?
Well, that they do analysis and then they have analysis done of samples and then we reimburse it for that. Is that not included in their contract? And trying to understand is why we're doing their authorization if we're already paying them separately.
So in order to get more favorable pricing, we wanted to get as many analysis estimated as possible. Is that sort of answering your question? So we included their numbers in this contract so that we would get better pricing from the laboratories.
So would our real cost be 160,000?
Yes, theoretically.
Okay.
And we're using this lab now, right?
We are not. We are currently using a laboratory called ALS Laboratories.
This is a 1-year contract.
This is a 1-year contract.
So every year we're going to spend this much money again.
Yes, we would spend, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you calculate this, it's $30 per sample. Right, including pickup. And I can tell you, this is really cheap. $30 per sample, you know, that's employee equipments, pickups. That's cheap.
Yeah, I can tell you just in personnel costs, if we were to go forward with trying to do all this in-house,
Yes.
the personnel costs would be higher than this number, without a
Yeah.
doubt. And the equipment involved in running some of these tests are double that, so.
Yeah.
It's there's not many water and wastewater facilities that are able to handle every single analysis in-house. And as I mentioned before, we do more than most people in-house already.
I was just trying to understand that.
So we've used,
40,000 worth there.
we've used Suburban in the past, though.
We have used Suburban in the past.
They didn't
3
get the
years
contract
ago, we
last
used Suburban. Say that again?
They didn't get the contract last year.
What? It was actually 3 years ago already that they did not get the contract. We have been supplementing with them. Our current laboratory that we've been using, the whole turnaround time, as I mentioned, huge deal for us. They haven't been quite cutting it in some areas, so we have been supplementing with Suburban in the meantime.
Where are they located?
Suburban Testing Labs is in Reading. It's actually really close to the Reading Airport if you're familiar with that area.
If I could just clarify, what we're asking for is approval for this professional services authorization, but with including the option to extend. So if they're doing a good job and they're holding their prices, we would want the option to extend for up to 2 additional 1-year appointments.
Any other board questions?
Brian, just a quick question. How much we were paying the year before?
Off the top of my head, I don't have that number, but prices have increased fairly drastically from the previous round. Yeah, we've been seeing pretty big, yeah.
Okay, we have before us a professional services authorization to Suburban Testing Labs for 1-year contract with the option to extend for 2 additional 1-year terms for a total price of $204,323. That includes $40,000 of cost Jacobs. Do I have a motion and a second?
Yes.
Motion by Amir, second by Linda. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Andrew. All right, moving on. We have documents, let's see, KISS Act 537 planning, financial and institutional evaluation, phase 1, seeking approval, green documents in our board package, digital board packet pages 34 through 38.
All right. This one, believe it or not, is on. The next 537 ones are Phil's.
Give them a break.
Yeah. So this memo and the authorization we're asking for really kind of takes us a little bit away from the engineering side of the 537 planning process. We've been focusing a lot of attention on the engineering evaluation of the alternatives and all the different varieties of combination of projects that could be put together to address the overall system needs for the Klein Island sewer system. But what we also need to consider is the financial capacity of the system to fund all the projects, and then also the institutional setup, the governance structure for administering the projects and managing the system moving forward. Those two things, the financial evaluation and the institutional evaluation, are requirements of the 537 process. So it's included, I think Phil at one point showed you the 15-page checklist of all the things that DEP requires. Financial and institutional evaluation is a key component to the requirement that we have to put together. So I think it's also noteworthy that DEP in all of our conversations with them have expressed a preference for the Klein Island sewer system to look at things on a more regional basis from that institutional structure, and recognizing that a lot of our intermunicipal agreements are pretty dated in terms of what they cover and how we manage cost sharing. So In conjunction with the city of Allentown, LCA has been kind of working through how do we do this in a way that makes sense for all 15 municipalities that are part of the system. There's a lot of different opinions and concerns about cost sharing and the overall structure of these future intermunicipal agreements. So what we've come up with is this phased approach where we would work in smaller increments to engage the municipalities in things sort of one step at a time. We need to do it in parallel with the engineering work because it's going to take some time to gather the data and get all the ideas out on the table. And the engineering work is kind of happening at a pretty quick pace, and things are coming to fruition and getting good information. All of Phil's work that will inform the process. Bless you. And so, you know, one of the key things that we want to achieve in this first phase is to compile financial information from all the municipalities, because that's a requirement for the 537. We need to have cash flow statements from every municipality. We need to have debt structure from every municipality. So just beginning to put that information together and put formats together that we're all going to use is going to be an important component of this first phase. And by compiling it all into the same format, it'll give us the opportunity to look at things both from an individual municipality perspective and then the whole system collectively. So the overall cost to operate the system, both at an individual municipal level and then the whole system level, looking at rates at each individual municipal level and then the whole system level. That's what we want to begin to achieve with this first phase. And I think an important component that we've talked a lot about recently is what's the borrowing capacity for the system, the whole system. LCA, we operate the city system under the terms of the lease agreement. And generally speaking, we would say that's where the funding for plant improvements would come through the city lease. But our borrowing capacity may be severely limited based on what Nate Schwartz mentioned earlier in our audit discussion about you know, how heavily debt loaded the city division is. So we need to look at this now so we understand what the borrowing capacity is of the system, both as we're structured now and, you know, maybe there's a way to change our structure to allow for these projects to happen and be funded. Don't have any of the answers today, but gathering the financial data and putting it all together and doing the analysis will be the first step to having those conversations. So there's some future phases that we're thinking about that will kind of happen in parallel with the engineering work that Phil's running as we get beyond the preliminary screening of alternatives into final alternatives that will hone in on what the costs are, what the projects are. We can get a better sense of how the costs need to be shared. So we put together a proposal or an RFP that generally covers everything that's in the memo. And we talked to a few different firms that might support this type of phase one financial analysis. And we did get 3 proposals in. Raftellus turned out to be not only the lowest proposal, but also the one that we felt really met the needs of the organization. City review, they're comfortable. LCA review, we're comfortable. Raftellus really brought good experience in doing 537 work in Pennsylvania, which was great. They are also the leading industry expert on affordability analysis, doing studies for EPA on consent orders and affordability analysis of major projects, which we think this qualifies not as a consent order, but as, you know, major regional work that meets the Clean Water Act requirements. And they also have that stakeholder involvement piece, which I think we experienced firsthand when we used them for the strategic plan. So what we're asking for today is capital project authorization for this piece of the 537 plan, evaluation of financial alternatives, and the phase one professional services authorization to Raftellus. The Raftellus proposal is $70,925. And then with some staffing in there, the capital project authorization of 90,920. Bill, you want to add anything?
No, I think you covered everything.
Okay.
It's one, section 7, if you're interested in the checklist. That's the section. It spells it all out.
Bill has been asking me, what are we doing about section 7 for the past 6 to 12 months? So this is kind of our way of getting at what's required for the 537, section 7 of the checklist.
Questions about board?
Yeah, I have one question. I'm just curious, Rachel. Our proposal was. It was developed and we asked the KISS municipalities for opportunities to review the scope, provide comment. How many provided comment? Kind of, did you get any comment?
Nothing significant at this proposal stage. I think where we landed with the scope of work was actually a result of prior conversations with some of the municipalities, several of the municipalities, in fact, saying we don't really think the current intermunicipal agreements are going to meet the needs of this future work that we're contemplating with the 537. We have one municipality specifically ask for us to do a regional rate study so they can understand like where their rates are in comparison with others. So we incorporated that into the scope of work. We've had pretty good municipal collaboration on this work along the way, as you know, as well as Bill's bi-monthly meetings. Monthly, many meetings.
I'm trying to get a feel for, how these municipalities are coming along.
Yeah, I think, it's a spectrum. So some of them are, I think, feeling like the intermunicipal agreements provide some protections and they're going to be nervous about any potential changes. But there's, I would say, a movement among the municipalities, many of the municipalities, to say these intermunicipal agreements are so old, we don't understand them, they're complicated, the process is not transparent to the public. So we need something that's a little better, easier to use, easier to follow through, and meets the needs of the future. So there's also been a fair amount of staff turnover at the municipal level over the 12, 15 years we've been working at this stuff. So where a municipal manager might have been part of authoring those intermunicipal agreements in the past, they're no longer there. They're looking at what this is and, looking for something easier, simpler, and along the way.
That's encouraging.
Yeah.
I think it's good that we're coming up with some of our own affordability analysis. As the regulators like to throw out 1 to 2% of the median household income, and can be very high and not really reasonable. So we have some background in the report to justify numbers that people can actually afford, I think and then projects that match those, I think is very important.
Yeah. And that was a big selling point for us for Rafellis, because they are the industry expert in that.
There's a question, do they focus only on the sewer system and water system aspects? Because some of the municipalities might have other financial stressors that are coming up that will factor into the affordability in general of everything that is going on within that township or whatever.
Yes.
Are they looking beyond that or just at this stuff?
Generally speaking, the municipal sewer systems are financially separate from other lines of business within the organization. So, so we're looking specifically at sewer expenses, the rates, the revenues, specifically for sewer. But when you look at affordability, you're looking at more the social aspects like median household income or your lowest quintile of income and other factors that relate. So not necessarily looking at other aspects of the municipality's finances, but the community, the community impacts, if that makes sense. We're not going to look at the tax base or the the trash rates or that kind of stuff, but we will look at the community's the income status or demographics, those sorts of things.
I was focusing more on if the township or municipality has some major financial obligation coming up in the future, that's their affordability regardless of the sewer and water aspects, but it's certainly going to factor into what the citizens of that community can afford.
That's gonna be like a municipal by municipal
Thoughtful.
decision and collaboration.
Yeah.
The borough of Emmaus might have different factors than Upper Macungie Township or South Whitehall. They're all gonna have to need to weigh on what works for them.
Okay.
So theoretically, the financial analysis could come up with the affordability of X. And we might stumble into a situation where we need 2X to do the right job. And then the trick here is to try to figure out how to put a camel through the eye of a needle, right? It's
Spread it out.
yeah, somehow.
And to be clear, with this phase of the work that we're doing, we're not focused as much on the affordability piece. It's just getting all the municipalities to submit information, get it into a standard format that we can use for this analysis, and then just looking broadly at what does it take to operate the system collectively and individually? What do people pay now? And then putting in some of the framework for that future piece.
Sure.
Awesome, very good. Okay, we have before us capital project authorization, GIFT Act 537 plan, financial and institutional evaluation, phase 1, consulting services, total CPA of $90,925. That includes a professional services authorization for financial and institutional evaluation services to Raptellus for $70,925. Motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Ted. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Moving on to sanitary sewer collection system, City of Allentown manhole inspections, seeking approval, pink documents in our package, digital board packet, pages 39 to 49.
We're gonna close out the meeting with 2 fill the po items.
The PowerPoint, so it'll be quicker. Thank you, everyone. What we're gonna talk about now is getting more into the engineering leads with 2 different types of inspections. I'll do the manhole inspection first, and then we'll do the interceptor second. You have to remember what we're talking about here. We're talking about a Chapter 94 corrective action plan, which is the same thing as our interim 537 plan. That was approved by DEP in the summer of 2021. As part of that interim 537 plan, been mandated by DEP. Every single municipality must have a strong I&I program moving forward. And just as a refresher for an I&I, it's inflow and infiltration. With the manhole inspection piece, we're going to address that first I, the inflow piece. So if you think of a hydrograph, normal diagonal curve up and down based on the time of day, if it rains, spikes up and it comes back down. So that the inflow piece is that spike. And all the data is indicated. Remember last year we did an RDII analysis, which is using the metering data to analyze, what it was doing when it rained. We have an inflow problem. It's not just the city, it's the whole system is an inflow problem. So we have to address the inflow problem because that's gonna, of course, affect what we do at Klein's Island for the peak flow solutions. Again, this is just one step of many to address the I&I. To go on, to follow up what Lisa was saying about collaboration, the Upper Macungie Township sewer engineer, I think last year or 2 years ago, put a GoPro camera underneath the Upper Macungie manhole lid and recorded the amount of rainfall that enters during a rainstorm. I think that helped finally, people realized that there was a problem because of that video. So the collaboration is really is nonstop. Every meeting, there's always a new topic coming up. So kudos to the Upper Macungie engineer for doing that camera. What this authorization is going to focus on is the first 900 or so manholes in the city. City has about 7,200 manholes. And during the AO period, in the 2010s, the city / LCA did install manhole dishes. So the intent of these dishes is to collect the rainwater, just so it doesn't enter the system. But with those dishes, you can't just put them in. There's a lot of prep work to making sure they're sealed correctly. And unfortunately, a lot of these dishes have holes in them now. So the dishes are not doing their job. And that was clearly evident with the data from 2021. So the intent is to do an inspection on the manholes. And of course, any rehab work that comes about with the inspection. So we're gonna have to figure out if we want to install the dishes while we're inspecting, or if we want to install the dishes in the subsequent year. So those details will be worked out. But the intent is to seal 99% of the city's manholes by 2033. So of course, we want to leave some manholes open to breathe. So that, so the system can breathe. So again, these are details that need to be worked out. We want to seal the majority of the manholes. Leave a couple open for breathing purposes. The sealing techniques themselves, we can drop the dishes in. We're investigating some techniques. We can do a caulk around the dish. With the caulk, of course, every time you want to take the dish out, you have to, strip the caulk out, and you have to re-put the caulk back in. So these are the items that we're discussing internally about what's the best way to seal these dishes. So that's another piece of this program. And, it's not spelled out specifically in the proposal, but what we're doing here is we're creating a 10-year manhole rehab program is what we're essentially doing. And since the regulatory spotlight is so heavy right now, we need a consultant to help us for year one. And once we get the framework established for year one, if internal staff is available in the, years 2 through 10, so be it, we can switch to internal staff. But again, year one, we have to go on the right start. So that's why we need a consultant's help. There's every KISS meeting, there's always discussions about what exactly is our goal for the I&I program. And there's lots of, examples to point to about bad I&I programs. That's why this year one has to be done right, so we can set the tone. The actual work itself will be to prepare an inspection plan, go in the actual manhole itself, come up with a basis of rehab, and then the next year we'll take those recommendations and then incorporate them into the year 2 rehab program. So the year one will just be inspection. Year 2 will be inspection plus any prior year's recommendation of work. That's how we're structuring this program. Again, we want to address inflow elimination. And we're setting a target. We're trying to set a target of 50% reduction in inflow. Whether that's achievable or not is, we won't know until we start doing the program. So we're gonna have some sort of check and balance to make sure that the work we're doing is actually beneficial to the system. How they're actually going to inspect the manhole is, the inflow is in the top 2 to 3 feet of the manhole, so you can just literally get on your belly and just look down to see, make a recommendation on what you see. Part of the proposal you see as a flow chart. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So that's how it's done. Again, we're not inventing this. This is done throughout the nation. Little Rock, Arkansas. No, I'm sorry, that's the next one. Newcastle County, Delaware had an extensive manhole inspection program, and so did Virginia Beach. So again, we're not creating something out of the blue here. This is how it's done throughout the nation. The schedule is, we want to start January next year, and we want to be done by the fall of next year. So 900 manholes inspected, and then every December, you're going to see me asking for an authorization through 2033
Again, internal staff is the wild card. If we can use internal staff after year one. The funding, this is an LC Allentown Division funded program. The next inspection piece will be the city's AO bond. But under the lease arrangement, this manhole program will be LCA funded. You know, and of course, the city is gonna potentially help pick out locations and there's a collaboration. But what I'm asking for this manhole inspection program, year one. Capital authorization. Requested in the amount of $239,000. And that includes internal staff time. And a professional services authorization to Arcadis in the amount of $199,000. Any questions on the manhole inspection program?
Yeah, Phil, the only question I have is probably very minor in the. On page 5, they say they're going to evaluate these different options. And then the manhole liners down the bottom. It talks about using Portland cement. See that on page 5.
Yes.
Why would they even, I don't know, in my line of work, Portland cement is prohibited for sewer work, or it doesn't hold up. Usually use hydraulic grout. Why would they even consider, maybe there's a reason for considering Portland cement.
Right, that's something.
I would just ask you to make sure that you look into that. And I don't really know how they do all of this, but I would think any project dealing with sewers, shouldn't be using Portland cement.
Okay, I can ask. Again, the basis of rehab is going to be focused on the frame and cover majority. The frame and cover itself and then the dish. And if they see something bad with the chimney itself, and then we'll get into what you just said.
Okay.
A couple of questions. So this work is only for inspection and assessment and recommendation, no physical work be done by, is that correct?
That's correct as of now. We're doing a pilot program now on the east side of Allentown to determine which dish sealing method is the most preferred. So I don't think we're gonna do any dish work next year.
So this authorization is only for inspection and assessment and recommendation, correct?
Yes,
Correct. $190 per manhole.
roughly.
Okay. So if I look at 7,200 manholes that we have, and we do 900 a year, right? So if you calculate it's 7-8 years till they do all the work. So if I recall, we did some modeling and monitoring measurements to see where are the I&I mostly coming from. So is there any prioritization has done based on the work that we have done? So we are selecting the one which is, because the 900 might be easier for them to go one place, or would have to go spread and see where the leak is coming from.
Yes, that's a good point, Amir. We're gonna talk with internal staff and talk with the city about which ones we want to tackle first. But to answer your question directly, we had 39 temporary meters in last year. And of those 39 basins, 24 of those basins had a peaking factor greater than 5. So we're gonna tackle those, try to pick 900 manholes inside those 24 basins. And it may depend on the weather, the time of the year we get out there too. If we want to do along if there's a brush, we want to maybe do them in the winter or the fall when all the leaves are down. So it's going to be an evolving situation. And I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to mention something about AJ's asset management program. This is year one. So when AJ has his asset management program established, say year 3, I'm just hypothetically talking, things may change with the program. So it's an evolving. We have to be able to adapt, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Also in the page 7, they were indicating that the cost might be more, and they might be coming back and asking for more money from the board. Is this something that we have to bid upon and see if these guys are the right person to do? Because they say if the cost, they will do it through monthly throughout the project, and if you not exceed the authorized budget, we are reading professional services from the LCS. So the number could go higher, and they can come and ask for more money for the same work. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. And
To be honest, I think you're on the last page of the proposal. I think you're on page 7, right? Yep. Yeah, that's their standard language they put in every proposal. And traditionally, they have been over projecting their budget, so they've been coming under for all the prior work to date. So I don't anticipate the budget being an issue.
Yeah, I think I feel more comfortable that, you know, this is not a construction that they need material, it's just the labor work that they have to go. They have to be. They can be under, but they cannot be over because they can project what is the cost of the person going inspecting.
Right.
So at least, to me, this is an open-ended for them that they can come back and ask for more money. And then we have us at the hook because now they have inspected the one half and the other half, you know, we can just stop the work.
I'll make sure that doesn't happen. And
If they go over, we can always say you're done.
you're done, yeah, wait till the year
So
2.
you can stop it whenever you want.
I think, you know, we have so much time to this company that
We do.
breaking up is, that's the reason I'm asking that, you know, breaking up with them is gonna be a lot of cost to us, right? So that's the reason I'm asking that if we can eliminate that page, since there is no material anymore, it's only labor, I would be a lot more happier.
So just in fairness to be the devil's advocate here, I've done this work. What if they have not been out to all 900 manholes? You don't know how long it's going to take you to unbolt it, open it. It could be paved over. So I'm, you know, I don't want it to be unreasonable, but I see why they want a little flexibility. Because you're right, once you get it open, it takes you whatever time it takes you, half an hour to look in the manhole and fill out the inspection report. It's really the accessibility and opening the manhole, which takes time.
And
So
it's a good point, Jeff. The more LCA staff can help.
with that part of it, or pre-inspect the manholes, have them ready. We've done that before, so when you get out there with the engineer, you're not standing around while somebody's whacking it with a sledgehammer.
Right.
So that would be helpful. I would also ask too, along those same lines, what those guys were asking. Once you identify, say, some basic manhole repairs that are needed, say the frame and cover, you know, needs some adjustments, is that something that can be done internally, or is all this going to be put into a project for, you know, manhole rehab? I know some of it can't be if they're talking about lining or other things that might be, or excavating or something.
I say a mix.
Okay,
That would be my first answer would be a mixture.
yeah,
So with the amount of inflow that we're seeing, so out of the 900, we're going to see a substantial number of construction contract requirements coming out of each year of inspection is going to give us each year of repairs. So we're going to have to be authorizing those repairs every year as well.
Yeah, and just as a refresher, we did do, Brian Chamberlain may remember the exact number. I think we did about 400 manholes during the AO period. So, you know, we can double check those manholes to see if they're okay, but there's been some done. But not this comprehensively. And again, this is not just the city. I just want to reiterate, this is not just the city. Every municipality should be doing what I'm requesting.
Okay, we have before us a capital project authorization, Allentown Division, City of Allentown 2023 manhole inspections for total CPA of $239,000 with a professional services authorization to Arcadis 2023 manhole inspections of $199,000. Motion and second, please. Motion made by Linda, seconded by Ted. A little faster, Ted. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Motion passed. Now we have before us the last action item on the agenda, sanitary sewer collection system, City of Allentown interceptor inspections. Seeking approval, salmon documents. We have in our board package, digital board package 50 through 60.
Yes, so this is the, as Brian, as you said, this is the interceptor inspection piece. So this is a little bit different topic. To be honest, this came to be a little bit later in the game about this necessity of this inspection. What it boils down to is that no matter what municipality we're talking about. Every municipality touches at least one of the city's interceptors before it gets to Collins Island. And we don't know the longevity of the interceptors. We have an idea based on annual CCTV, they find it and they fix it. But we don't know how long these interceptors are gonna last. And some of them are already approaching 100 years. So with this inspection, we want to answer two major questions. Can we operate the system as we have been doing for the past 50 years? Pressurized, unpressurized, pressurized, unpressurized, depending on how we hold back flow and depending on the weather. So we want to answer that. If we want to continue operating it like that, can we? And then the second thing is if we find that there's problems with the inspection, what are we going to do about it? The 537 plan requires a narrative on all the major conveyance assets, expected useful life. We need to know this answer, for obvious cash flow reasons and whatnot, but the big thing is the operation of the system. For the ongoing modeling that's occurring right now, the city may want to set different levels of service per interceptor. And they may say that, but the field inspection may say a different pathways to go down. So it's gonna help establish a level of service per interceptor, for the next 30 years. So there's no real easy way to do this. We have all the as-bills. It's a wide variety of material, wide variety of date, wide variety of construction methods were used. But what the intent is, we want to go to about 80 manholes, which would be 10 of the city's main interceptors. We want to physically go in a manhole, depending on the flow, it can be at nighttime, depending on the flow, we may have to hold back the flow equalization basin up at the pretreatment plant. We have to operate our pump stations at a lower wet well level just to get all the flow out as much as we can. Because with this proposal is we don't want to use any bypass. We don't have the time for the bypass. We don't have the funds available for the bypass. We want to do this, so the punchline is no bypass here. And so we want to do as much as we can. About 80 manholes we want to enter. And the intent is to take, photographs, look around, collect all the data that we can, and if possible, physically touch the pipe, physically touch the joints. This is how it was done in Aiken, South Carolina. This was how it was done in Little Rock, Arkansas, going in and touching the pipe. CCTV, it's visually okay, but it may not be the whole story. So that's the intent with trying to get 8 or so manholes per interceptor. Try to strategically pick the right locations to enter and try to touch the joints. That's what's going to fail first. And that's what has failed in other places. So that's why this focuses on these joints. We don't know the condition of them. They could last another 50 years. We just don't know. So that's
what type of joints are these, generally speaking? They vary.
They vary, yeah. I mean, I know in the cities, we just found out that it's every 3 feet is what the joint is. Depending on what the material is, if it's, some of these interceptors are just basic concrete blocks. So there's really no issue with those. Some of the interceptors are clay. Some of them are pipe or PVC. So it's all over the map. So again, Arcadis has all the, of course, they helped put the meters in last year, so they know what the flow does per time of the month, per time of day. So that's the intent, is to go in, again, 80 manholes in the first quarter, because we need answers like for the modeling purposes. So again, this inspection will be funded by the city's AO bond. We want to start this and be wrapped up first quarter next year. And it's going to help set the city's level of service goals per interceptor, which is crucial for the upstream partners. So this request is in the amount of 88,000. There will be significant internal staff time, to Jeff's point about going to each of these manholes ahead of time, making sure they're opened up. So we can eliminate, timing issues with that. So with that 88,000, there's a request to Arcadis in the amount of 53,000. And again, no future authorizations or requests are anticipated for this inspection.
Questions?
Phil, I have a question. Can I assume that maybe of these 80 different manholes we're gonna look at, some of them will be part of those 900 manholes we're gonna look at?
Exactly, yes.
And if that's the case, when they open this up, will they do both evaluations at the same time?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, are they gonna do this work, checking the interceptors like in the middle of the night when flows are real low? Is that how they do it?
Yeah, depending on the interceptor, yes. Some of them, we may not be able to get in at all. Like the interceptor along Martin Luther King. That's the one that's like a concrete tank. So we may not need to get in there at all, but that one is full.
It runs full.
So it's each interceptor has its own flow characterization, we have all that data. So again, this is not a city request. This has been requested by every single municipality. I don't know if they're doing this or not. It's been requested multiple times. We need their interceptors remaining useful life.
Sound like a fun job. All right, and, okay, so we have before us a capital project authorization, Allentown Division, City of Allentown, 2023 interceptor. Total CPA of 88,000. That includes professional services authorization to Arcadis for in 2023 interceptor inspections for $53,000. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Okay, let's second this.
Motion by Scott, seconded by Jeff. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, everybody, for your solid work and your presentations. Moving on to monthly project updates, information items. First board meeting of the month, the digital board packet, pages 61 to 67. December 2022 report was attached.
Yes, and because of all of the hard work at today's meeting, every item, with the exception of two, on the report you've already addressed. So the two that you haven't addressed are the regular monthly financial review and the monthly operations report. We will submit those two with by the end of the month as we normally would. We just won't have that second meeting.
Okay.
Does any questions on anything?
All right, any questions? All right, moving on to item number 9, staff comments.
Just would like to wish everyone a wonderful holiday season and thank you for all the support throughout 2022.
Solicitor comment.
I echo that. Happy holiday.
Any public comments on any topics at all?
No comment here. Thank you, Brian.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Okay, board member comments.
I'd just like to announce that my term expires again this year and I will not be renewing. I've enjoyed working on the LCA for 12 years. I think we have a good board. I think we have a good staff. I like where it's headed. And I trust that the board will keep moving forward and do what we have to do to make sure that the water and sewer systems are operating properly and that we can satisfy the DEP mandate. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for, my opportunity to serve on this board. It's been enjoyable. So thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much for your service and dedication to the county authority, and I wish you well in everything you do.
Yep.
And
I'll probably keep abreast of what's going on,
we're certain of
but
that.
it's still, it's interesting work.
And
If I could just tail on to that, both Dick and Scott, since you're not seeking reappointment, you will still be considered to be a board member and will receive the information for every meeting until your replacement is appointed by the county. So if you're going to continue to attend meetings, Dick, I believe you said you would not be, but Scott, you're welcome to if you would like to. And you'll continue to receive that information until your replacement is appointed.
Right, but I won't be able to vote.
Yes, you can't. Yeah, you're still considered a board member until you're replaced.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you.
And if you're not replaced, you.
You might see me then. Hopefully you can find it out.
You can check in, man.
Hotel California.
And one final time, Dick, thank you for your service and for being a nice partner
Thank you.
next to me here. Appreciate it, and for all your work you've done as secretary and before that as the chairman. So, well, job well done.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
For both of you guys, one last thought. Right, on that note, we are adjourned.
Thank you.